So if we talk about how education has evolved, we know that there was major disruption probably decades ago, where it really became from a teacher-centered way of delivering content into more student-centered. And as we moved into that student-centered way, we find that there's a need for differentiated learning and really attending to different needs that students have, because students do feel that, you know, there are 21st century problems right now, and I'm still learning using 20th century tools. And what would be good is to kind of update those tools that it attends to exactly what they need. And one of the things when I talk to students is that what they really, really desire is that real experience. They want to connect it with what they're doing and learning to what reality really is. And you know, one of the ways that we can do that is with the VR, which is virtual reality. That allows us a way in that we previously couldn't do. Now, as the expression goes, I hear, I forget, I see, I remember, I do, I understand. And this is what we can do again in the virtual environment, is to actually give people those quasi-real experiences in that environment and allow them to interact there and driving that learning because they're actually doing and learning by doing, which is all of that experiential learning, which is exactly what we want to do as educators. According to Stanford University, being indistractable is the single most important skill in the 21st century. And I couldn't agree more. I've seen this with my own students. I've been a teacher for over 30 years, so I have a little bit of experience in dealing with those students. And I know that they can easily be distracted, that friends, their telephones these days, almost anything can separate them from that learning, just even a little bit. And we know, again, that as soon as you separate from that learning, the learning level goes down. So being able to concentrate on exactly what you're doing, being indistractable, makes you almost an indestructible learner. Having been a teacher for a number of years, I know that I have the ability to be able to teach my learners a certain amount. But there's always a little bit on the end that I cannot teach, and that becomes an issue. If I'm teaching about relative motion, I would love to get my learners onto a train to see how things are moving. If I'm teaching about photosynthesis, I would love to be able to have my students go into the plant to actually see what's going on inside and make that connection and make that leap in, I got it. That's the beauty, that's the thing that I really want to drive. And that's the thing that I can get from VR. The virtual environment allows me, as the instructor, to be able to open those worlds for my students, bring them inside a working engine, to take them under the sea to study plankton, to take them wherever they need to go in a very, very safe, in a distraction-free, judgment-free environment, which just lets that student concentrate, fully focused on exactly what they're learning and not be distracted and pulled away. That's what I want, and that's what we all need. So if we ask, okay, what is STEM? Okay, very simply, it's attending to those different fields, you know, science, technology, engineering, mathematics, and trying to make the connection between them into kind of a holistic way of presenting those ideas. So that they no longer live in their own kind of domains, but they meld together. So on the VR part too, I mean, we've got a lot of learning in biology, chemistry, physics, math, and the way of tying those together is the way to get toward that STEM learning. Real-life experiences can be difficult to achieve, they can be dangerous, and they can just be plain expensive. Virtual reality is one way that I can bring those experiences into the classroom. I can take my students under the sea or take them to the moon. It doesn't matter. I can safely do chemistry experiments or other kind of experiments and allow each student to be able to participate in that and drive that by themselves. So that ability to be able to have those experiences is one of the key elements with the VR. So we at Launch My Career have developed the world's largest library of learning content for the VR. Now, learning content by itself is not enough. To know exactly what you are learning with learning objectives, to know that you're in that 3D environment and interacting with whatever you need to interact with at that moment is fantastic. Getting instant feedback on how well you're progressing is also important. But also driving assessment questions and scores back into an LMS is equally important, so that there is a progress chart of where you are and where maybe you're lacking a little bit, and also where you're going, right? So having all of that in one place is extremely important. Now, having all of that completely offline is remarkable, because that's a difficult thing to do, but of course, with the VR headset from Launch My Career, you're able to do all of that. So having that ability in your own hands is a certain of magic and a certain amount of power that gives you. So if you want to get that kind of power and that kind of control in your own hands about your own learning, why not check out launchmycareer.com and learn more.